Right now, between one heartbeat and the next, your brain just deleted something that happened to you today. It didn't ask, it didn't warn you, and you will never know what it was. Count up the days you have been alive. If you are 30 years old, that is roughly 11,000 days. Now ask yourself how many of them you can actually remember. Maybe 200? The rest is gone. Not misplaced, not waiting to be found, gone. Your brain has deleted roughly 98% of your own life. It was not a mistake. It was the entire point. Forgetting is a biological program, a sculptor holding a chisel, working on you while you sleep. In 1885, Hermann Ebbinghaus became the first person to measure forgetting. He memorized thousands of nonsense syllables, BOK, YAT, JIK, and tracked how fast they vanished. Within 20 minutes, 40% gone. Within an hour, more than half. Within a month, almost nothing remains. For over a century, this was treated as a flaw. Memory is the goal, forgetting is the error. A better brain would remember more. A perfect brain would forget nothing. Every assumption in that sentence is wrong. In 2012, neuroscientist Ronald Davis at Scripps Research discovered a dedicated group of neurons whose only job is to erase memories. Dopamine, the same molecule your brain uses to reinforce learning, also binds to a second receptor that actively degrades unused memories. Same chemical, building and bulldozing at the same time, all day. His lab later found that sleep blocks this forgetting signal. During the day, the bulldozers run. At night, they shut down. That is the real reason sleep helps you remember, not by actively strengthening memories, but by turning off the machinery that erases them. What happens when that machinery breaks? The answer has been sitting in case files for decades. In the 1920s, a Soviet journalist named Solomon Shereshevsky walked into neuropsychologist Alexander Luria's office. His editor had sent him because Shereshevsky never took notes. He never took notes because he never forgot anything. Luria gave him 70-digit sequences, formulas in languages he'd never studied, pages of random syllables. Shereshevsky reproduced them perfectly, 16 years later. Luria stopped looking for limits. There were none. The mechanism was synesthesia. Every sound had a color, a taste, a texture. Numbers were people. 1 was a proud, well-built man. 6 was a man with a swollen foot. Every piece of information triggered a 5-sense explosion that embedded permanently. He could remember anything, and he could never stop. But he could not read a story. Each word ignited a cascade of associations that collided with the next before he reached the fourth. He could recite every word on the page in perfect sequence, but could not tell you what it meant. He could not recognize faces. Each expression created a new, incompatible file stored forever. When he tried to deliberately forget, he had to write the memory down, hold the paper in his hands, and picture it burning to ash. Sometimes it worked. Usually, it did not. Luria published the case in 1968. His conclusion? Shereshevsky's perfect memory had destroyed his ability to think. Thinking requires abstraction. Abstraction requires stripping away detail. And Shereshevsky could not strip away detail. He was drowning in the specifics of everything he had ever encountered. The same story plays out in people alive right now. Highly superior autobiographical memory, or HSAM, fewer than 100 cases worldwide. They remember every day of their lives in sensory detail. What they ate, what shirt they wore, what was said. The first diagnosed case, Jill Price, kept daily diaries not to remember but to trick her brain into releasing the files. She told researchers her memory was not a gift, it was a curse. Rebecca Sherrock, 34, Brisbane, remembers being in the womb. Her earliest dated memory is 12 days old. She can recite all 7 Harry Potter books word for word. She became near fluent in French and Spanish in 10 weeks. And when she remembers being bullied at school, the exact words, the hallway, the pattern of light on the floor, she feels it exactly as she felt it then. Her mind is 34. Her emotions revert to whatever age the memory holds. She has PTSD, not from a single event, but from being unable to escape any painful event ever. She sleeps with a radio on because silence triggers an uncontrollable flood of the past. This is the gift your brain gives you thousands of times a day. It lets go. The bulldozer is essential. Without it, you would be Shereshevsky, buried under your own life, unable to pull a single clean thought from the pile. There is another layer. Every time you remember something, you are not playing back a file. You are rebuilding it from scratch, and never the same way twice. In the early 2000s, neuroscientist Karim Nader overturned a century of dogma. The old model said memories were books on a shelf. Pull one down, read it, put it back unchanged. Nader showed that retrieval itself changes the memory. It enters a labile state, chemically fragile, open to modification, for several hours. When restored, it's different. Edited, compressed, merged with whatever was in your mind at the moment of recall, plus everything learned since. You have never remembered the same thing twice. Your most important day, the wedding, the birth, the loss, is not a recording. It is a remix, rebuilt hundreds of times, each rebuild substituting details with inference, each inference more confident than the original fact. Two people who lived through the same event tell entirely different stories 20 years later. Neither is lying. Their brains edited the same document in different directions until the original no longer exists. This is not a bug. If your brain stored every version, you would be Shereshevsky, crushed under incompatible records of the same event. You need the edit. You need the compression. You need the forgetting. And underneath all of it, your brain literally eats itself. The connections between neurons, synapses, are pruned throughout your life by immune cells called microglia. A 2024 Nature Neuroscience study described them as scavengers. Neurons decide which connections to drop. Microglia clear the debris. The connections removed are the ones you used least. The irrelevant details, the Tuesday afternoons where nothing happened, the face of the woman who handed you coffee 5 years ago. Gone, synapse by synapse, while you were doing something else. You are not a storage device. You are a sculpture, and forgetting is the hand that carves you. If you remembered every parking spot you have ever used, you would be paralyzed pulling into a lot. Finding an empty spot requires forgetting every specific spot before. If you cannot forget, you cannot generalize. If you cannot generalize, you cannot learn. Forgetting allows forgiveness. The sharpness of a slight fades because your brain lets it fade. Forgetting allows you to become someone new. If you were trapped in perfect recall of every humiliating thing you have ever done, you could not change, because you could not escape the evidence of who you used to be. Forgetting is not the enemy of identity. It is the precondition. Jorge Luis Borges saw this almost a century before the neuroscience caught up. In 1942, he wrote Funes the Memorious, a man who, after a head injury, could forget nothing, and it destroyed him. Borges wrote, "To think is to forget differences, to generalize, to abstract." In the overly replete world of Funes, there were nothing but details. Literary intuition in 1942, neuroscientific fact in 2025. Your brain has deleted most of your life. That is the only reason any of it was worth living. If everything was unforgettable, nothing would be precious. If every Tuesday was preserved in high fidelity, no Tuesday would matter. The deletion gives the remaining memories their weight. The silence makes the music audible. You are not a library burning down. You are a book being written, and writing requires leaving things out. The days you cannot remember did not go to waste. They built the person reading these words right now. The forgetting was never the problem. It was the shape of the answer, the chisel, the editor, the quiet hand in the dark, carving you.